Hello and welcome to the Secular Nation Podcast, brought to you by the Atheist Alliance of America. I am your host, Tim Brown. With me is Michael X.
Hello.
Well, Mike, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's I think I'm the responsible party for being so late on this one. Having a day job is...
Does that make me the irresponsible party?
Yeah, right. Where I'm the irresponsible party. Yeah, my day job is killing me, so I'm finding a way to get out of that and devote more time to the podcast.
Well, it's October 26th as we're recording this, so Halloween's coming up. But actually, interesting thing I learned recently is that next month, Hanukkah will be starting before Thanksgiving.
Oh, that's unchristian of them.
Yeah, actually, that's one of the things I'm interested in, how the schools are going to handle that, because it's going to be okay. Because when I was in school, like during Christmas time, it's always like, okay, you kids make Christmas trees, you kids make menorahs. Is it going to be like, okay, you kids make hand turkeys, the other two half make menorahs?
Yeah.
Or is it just going to be like, they're going to do the Christmas trees and menorahs, and all the Jewish kids are like, we were done with this stuff like 2 weeks ago.
Or hand menorahs or something. I don't know. Maybe they can kind of mix them together.
Yeah, well, that's actually, Colbert did that.
That's right.
Like, that was hilarious. Like, cause he's like, you'd have to use both hands. It wouldn't work. How do you work? And like, he actually did it. Like, he put both his hands like kind of in the shape of a menorah, and then he traced around by putting a Sharpie in his mouth.
Stephen Colbert, always on the forefront of religious thinking.
Yeah, apparently, it won't happen for like another 79,000 years.
Yeah, so plan ahead next time, guys.
Oh, yeah, because in 79,000 years, both Thanksgiving and Hanukkah will both be a thing.
So, well, we should mention there's a couple things. We remind you that the Secular Nation podcast is a part of the Atheist Alliance of America, and they are right now having a membership drive. And also, there's a new issue of the Secular Nation magazine, which is quite a nice issue that covers the terrific speeches that were given at the last convention in Boston. And there's been a new website design. So atheistallianceamerica.org is the place to go, and please join and support our mission. I've been listening to a lot of NPR pledges, so this is
with your support, we can continue quality programs like the Secular Nation Podcast.
That's right. So if you want more banter, then please go to the site.
Another thing I wanted to bring up, there's this movie trailer was brought to my attention for this movie called God's Not Dead.
He's not.
Yeah, well, actually, just one of the things, just even the title I can't even get past, is it's God's Not, like, God, 'S, not dead. Which, I don't know, to me that kind of strikes me as weird, as, like... It should be God is not dead, just because it just sounds weird with the contraction in that. Also, like, it sounds like God Snot.
Oh, God Snot.
Which I totally call as a band name.
God Snot, yeah.
But it's this...
And their first album called Dead.
But again, it's another one of these Christian persecution porn movies where basically, I mean, look at the trailer, like, the first, like, 30 seconds of the the first 10 seconds of the trailer is just like all these characters who are like total straw man of douchebag atheists, just really just up front just dissing Christian characters for...
Well, you know what it is. It's that we've all gotten this email, right, of the obnoxious professor standing in front of the class.
Oh yeah.
And the bright student who shows him how wrong he is about the non-existence of God.
And that student's name was Jesus
or Albert Einstein. Or
that's such a
Mahatma Gandhi.
Well, again, I think that kind of goes with our society's love of the underdog, of having the smarty pants be, the pompous professor being shown up by some smartass.
Yeah, so the joking is, was it Kevin Sorbo plays the nasty professor, and so it's like Hercules as straw man.
Yeah, well, again, it's not only that. It's like it's got and Dean Cain.
Dean Cain.
So it's like it's Dean Cain and so we got like Superman and Hercules.
I guess we atheists really should be giving up, though, because the Christians have Hercules and Superman on their side. I mean...
Yeah, although they're playing atheists.
Yeah, that's true, but they're only playing.
Well, I guess that's the thing, though. It's like they're both fictional characters and they're fictional atheists. So it's...
Oh, this is true. Yeah, I recommend seeing this trailer. It's really... If they ever decided to put... email spam in movie form, this is pretty much how I would imagine it. So I'm just waiting for the Nigerian scandal one.
Well, I guess in a sense, though, like Hercules is kind of an atheist hero because he's always fighting gods. He's always
And a lot more gods to fight.
Yeah.
So this is not going to be on your Netflix queue then?
Well, first off, I don't have a Netflix queue anymore. I just stream.
No, that's true.
But I'll probably try to see this movie though. It's just
oh yeah, my stomach hurts just thinking about it.
Ugh. But there's actually a few of these Christian movies I kind of want to see. Just there's one with called Suing the Devil with
Suing the Devil.
Yeah, it's with Malcolm McDowell. It's and actually it's funny.
Is he a Christian?
He's an actor who'll do anything.
Yeah.
I actually saw him at a horror convention a few months ago.
Yeah?
Yeah, well, he's a nice guy, I guess.
You weren't dressed as a droog?
No.
I guess a kilt wouldn't go with a droog outfit, though.
Nah.
I
can make it work.
By the way, I should say, in the latest issue of Secular Nation magazine, there is a picture of your host, Tim Brannan, in his kilt.
Yes, I am an avid kilt wearer.
Though it is not the centerfold.
Damn it, Tom said it would be.
Yeah, well, we have to, even atheists have moral standards,
Yeah.
I only read it for the articles. For today's podcast, we interviewed LaDonnaYork, the head of Atheists Helping the Homeless, out of Dallas and Fort Worth. She shared her unbelievable story with us and then discussed how to launch a charity that isn't weighed down by God belief. So enjoy.
Hello, we are here with LaDonnaYork, founder and director of Dallas-Fort Worth Atheists Helping the Homeless. Donna, great to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, so for our listeners who might not be familiar with your organization, why don't you start with just giving us a little more about your background?
Well, I was raised in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. My father was a drug addict, and my mother was schizophrenic bipolar mix. So I ended up a lot on the streets with my mom after they split up, and in between foster homes in the 80s, they would do you could go live with one parent, and if they got their stuff together long enough to prove to the court that they were a viable option as a parent, you would go stay with them. And as soon as they fell off the wagon or had a mental breakdown, you'd go stay with the other parent, and then you'd go to foster care. My mother had a final break at a homeless shelter in Dallas, at the Dallas Life Foundation. And that's when me and my twin sister both permanently ended up in foster care from the age 11 to 18. So that's my background, and that's why I chose to do this. I actually had done a lot of volunteering. As a child, I was Christian, and I did so much in the name of, God. And whenever I became atheist, I still continued to volunteer for the Dallas Life Foundation and the Salvation Army and other missions around the Metroplex. However, I just felt very fraudulent. I couldn't be myself. I couldn't say I was an atheist. I couldn't just do things just because there were messages everywhere I turned of religious nature. So I one day started Googling, atheists and homeless, and I ran across someone else that was doing another type thing in Austin, and I decided I wanted to do my own. So that's how I started, and I started one of my own. We're not affiliated with that group. I started. I went to the Secretary of State and filed for nonprofit status, and got a PayPal account, and started accepting donations, and started from there. Just grassroots kind of thing.
How many people do you help per year, would you guess?
Well, we usually do anywhere from 200 up to 350 a month. It really just depends. Weather has a lot to do with it. The hotter it is, the less people there are. The more cold it is, the less people there are. So it varies greatly. But usually by month, we average about 300 homeless per month. And we provide them with 8 body wipes, 30 Q-tips, a roll of toilet paper, a bottle of water, a pair of socks, a handful of feminine products for the ladies, shave gel, 2 razors, lip balm, shampoo / body wash, deodorant, lotion, toothpaste, toothbrush, a package of peanut butter crackers, some fruit snacks, 4 to 12 condoms, as many condoms as they want, actually, and 2 little pieces of soap, and some pocket tissue. So we actually do a whole lot of stuff for people, and that ranges around $250 per person.
The fact that you give out condoms was a big applause line when you spoke at the AAA convention.
It was. So
good for you. That seems to be a very unique thing. You don't see the Baptist organizations doing that.
Absolutely not. We always have. There's always church groups wherever we do giveaways, and they always have loudspeakers set up, and they're just preaching messages to people, and they'll come with a few items of clothing and sometimes hot plates or sandwiches, but they never provide the things that they really need. We always hear from the homeless that they're like, wow, we can't believe this. This is exactly what we need. And it's just been a missing link out there. The thing is we service typically the chronic homeless, the ones that won't take advantage of the shelters for, a myriad of reasons. Either one, they're completely chronic homeless and they're never going to get out of it. They've used all of the services available within their particular city. And or they have a loved one and they don't want to be separated from one another. Also, they may have a pet and they don't want to be separated from their pet. So there are many reasons why people choose to not go into shelters, and that's why we try to provide these things so that they can stay clean and still go to interviews and be all cleaned up for that.
I know one of the reasons that people don't like to go to shelters is just that there's a perception that some of them aren't safe as well. Yes,
that's true. And there are. I mean, like families, it's really, really difficult. A lot of stuff that happens is really just a lot of theft, that kind of thing. They really separate people. So a lot of that stuff doesn't happen as much as it used to, the unsafeness of it. But they... to a person who is mentally ill and homeless, having their items stolen from them, they feel very unsafe in a way that maybe you and I wouldn't feel as unsafe as if our belongings were stolen from us. We'd still feel unsafe, but not to that level because they feel like someone's out to get them. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So their level of fear is greater than the average person's level of fear. So yes, that is true, but you need to look at it from their perspective because they have extenuating circumstances that elevate that fear. And a lot of times that's why women with children, they worry about it because there are still women who are child molesters. They fear for their children. There are men that will escape from the men's side even. So there are concerns like that. I remember whenever I was there, my mom was always afraid, even though it was a whole separate floor that we lived on, that just women lived on. She was very fearful of anything ever happening to us. She, even being mentally ill, my mother was an extremely protective mama bear type. And so there were a lot of precautions taken towards that, like sleeping. My mom missed a lot of sleep because she wanted to make sure her twin daughters were safe. And we were exposed one time, ironically, at the Dallas Life Foundation in the church area. A man exposed himself to me and my twin sister. And that really freaked my mom out. She thought that we would be safe waiting in the church for her. So a lot of times what she ended up doing to go on job interviews, most of which she would never keep a job just because of her being mentally ill and her type of mental illness, hearing voices. And she couldn't hide that. So she couldn't keep a job for very long.
Did she perceive herself as mentally ill?
No, not at all. Not at all. But we knew my mother was very different when she was on medication than when she wasn't. When the voices talked to her, they told her to do things to us that were not completely out of the norm for a mother to do to their child. I mean, we could tell as soon as she started talking to the wall or whatever, we knew that, oh no, here it comes. But honestly, back then we would have rather been with our mom than in any foster care.
Mm-hmm.
And my mother was highly religious, of course, because schizophrenics, I'm not sure if you're aware, but many of them have not just a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. I mean, like Jesus is talking to them, and Jesus talked to her all the time. And this man named Uncle Tony, whoever he was, but at the same time, we also knew that she wasn't in her right mind. So we forgave her quite readily.
One of the things I hear about mental illness when it comes to religion is, that religion doesn't cause mental illness, but it just doesn't help. Because again, when you have that voice in your head and it's then people say it's Jesus, that kind of limits your ability to get help.
That's right. And and to her, it was the right thing to do. I mean, and she didn't seek help for that type of thing because she thought that it was divine intervention. She thought that God was telling her to beat us because she was beating the sin out of us and she was beating the hatefulness out of us. And, even asking for something that she didn't think was appropriate, like an ice cream, she would say that we were greedy. For me personally, I took on a lot of those things that she said and really browbeat myself a lot, So it was really nice whenever she was on her medication because she was completely different. So, and that's the thing, is that they do take the religion, and religion does not cause mental illness. But if you're mentally ill, then religion adds a certain level to it that is so thick, it's unreal. The levels that my mother would go to in the name of God when she was off her meds. We were still very subject to religious abuse because she was Pentecostal. And she thought, like I mentioned, at the conference, her maternal family told her that she was mentally ill because she didn't love God enough. So going to church every day, and it didn't matter what church, we would go to the Church of Incarnation, and she would lay on the floor and everyone would just look at us, and it was embarrassing. And she would make us lay on the floor with her because the closer to the ground you are, the more low you are, the closer to God you would be.
And you would also do street preaching with her too, right?
She did do a lot of street preaching, and we would too. We would hold signs, like picketers almost, but not. We would hold signs, and we would be preaching to just anybody. We would hit them with our Bibles, even.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, we would. If we're repent, we'd tell them to repent, and the end times are coming, and all of that Pentecostal jazz.
Do you think you ever converted anybody?
I know I did.
Oh, you did?
Many, many, many. Not only did I do that with my mother, but whenever I went into care, I went into care with the final place I went into care was the Lena Pope Home in Fort Worth, Texas. And my foster parents, dorm parents or whatever they're called, family teachers, actually, sorry. They were called family teachers there. And they were Pentecostal as well. So I was a part of this drama group called Jesus and Company, where we mimed to all of the Carmen songs. And I'm not sure if y'all were previous Christians and you would understand what I'm talking about, but all these different songs, and we would mime to them. And I was in the tambourine corps at my church. I also did sign language for my church, Church on the Rock North, which is a mega church now. It was in the beginning stages of mega church whenever I left. And I did mission trips. I did mission trips every summer to Mexico and built little shacks for the squatters. If they were missionaries, we'd build little shacks for them where there was no water, no infrastructure whatsoever, like none, nothing. So I did a lot of things, and I brought a lot of people to the Lord. I did some street preaching even as a teenager out from underneath my mother's watch why, because she, by this time had passed. So I did street preaching, and my twin sister came. It was one of the 3 times that I saw her between 11 years old and 18. And I was just screaming at this man, and she thought he was going to kill me. She was very scared for me because he was a tall, large man, and I was just beating his chest with my Bible. And I was 16. I brought my Bible to school every day. I preached to everybody. I was an outcast, a complete outcast.
So what made you give that up?
Well, there were some circumstances in my life that were negative. I felt very alone, and I prayed to God that He had forsaken me, and I didn't understand. So that led the first steps to not believing that there really was a God, because how can you put this much stuff on one person? And everyone would just say, He doesn't ever put too much on your plate, and you don't need to question that and all of that. And I just got angry and tired of hearing that, and it didn't make any ding dong sense to me whatsoever. So then I got cable. Oh, I was so excited when I got cable. I was 24 years old when I got cable for the first time, and I was exposed to the Science Channel. And I'll never forget learning the age of the earth. And the first thing, I ran to my bedroom and snatched my Bible up, and because I'm a very timeline kind of gal, so I opened up the front that had the timeline on it in my little pink Bible, and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. How does this make it? What? So that was the first thing for me. It wasn't just situational, just finding out all this knowledge. My mind was completely blown, and I stayed glued to the Science Channel for months because of that. And I just couldn't get enough. I didn't know that there was even atheist communities or atheist organizations at all within my community. I just was atheist by myself. In fact, I didn't even know that there were other atheists.
Part of your story is that, you did experience homelessness 20 years ago. Like, how did you get into that situation, and how did you manage to find your way out of it?
Well, there was an event where my mother had to get my way out of it. There was an event, if you remember me telling you, where my mom had a psychotic break. She literally shaved her head, got naked, and got on the bridge of Cadence Street in downtown Dallas, and I looked out the window. I woke up in the middle of the night and looked out the window, and there she was. And that's when I was permanently placed, and that's when I left homelessness. It was because of my mother's psychotic break.
So your experience then on the other side of public service led you to the life that you have now, providing public service. What made you think of going into starting Atheists Helping the Homeless, and how difficult was it to start?
It was actually quite easy to start. In Texas, it's $25 to file for nonprofit status. The IRS, it's free to get a tax ID number. It's all done online. I found a few people to help me along and to be directors and founders with me. And we got a bank account. I'm telling you, it could all be done in less than 4 hours time. It was incredibly easy to do. I did it because because I'm an atheist, and I was at a point in my life where I wanted not only to provide for the homeless and do something for the homeless, which is, of course, is something very, very dear to my heart. And I I feel a compulsion to do it. Like, really, I can't stop doing it. Providing for the homeless even if I didn't have this group, I would still continue to do it. It's incredibly important to me. So, but the atheist part was also very important to me, and I wanted people to know that atheists are good people and that we do incredibly wonderful things. And you may not know we're an atheist, but we are, and we're here, and we're doing good things. And that's what I really want to do is encourage people to put atheist in their name, embrace atheism fully and totally, and in the nonprofit sector. Not exactly just the nonprofit sector, but the charitable nonprofit sector, because you can have a nonprofit and not do a lot of charitable deeds. So that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to do that. Does that answer your question?
Oh, yeah. Well, and the reason why I ask is that, for people listening, if they might want to start their own organization in their own town, what would the best steps? I mean, did you have an atheist community? You said you had people you could bring in. Were you already part of an atheist community, or just people you happened to know also believed like you, or just didn't believe like you did?
Oh, I hate to admit this, but I will tell you that I really, like I was telling you, I didn't know that there were other atheists in the Metroplex. It's because I really didn't. I never really sought out other people. I had no idea that there was Metroplex Atheists, the Foundation of Free Thought. None of that I had any idea even existed. But as soon as I decided I was going to do this, I came out online to all the friends, like high school friends, all of that stuff. I mean, my closest ones knew already, but came out to, all these Facebook friends and promptly lost a third of them, of course. And so then I started reaching out. I built up a Facebook page, was the first thing I did. Matt from Cincinnati, I don't know if you guys know him, but Matt Kovach is the one that got me started. He did my first Facebook page and was like, this is what you need to do. And he was so exuberant and told me everything I needed to do to get an online community to go. And that's what I did. And I started finding people. I started reaching out to Metroplex Atheists and all these people. The first giveaway I had, there were 23 volunteers. I mean, that's huge. That is a huge amount of volunteers. And it was unbelievable how much the outpouring. I had no idea that our community, that the atheist community inside Dallas and Fort Worth was so huge. So I was incredibly grateful. And that's how I started. It was just basically on Facebook. And then whenever I got the people on my side that were ready to be directors and also founders, we did a lot of communication. Like Jason, I made him my executive director. Jason and I had a 4-hour conversation about what we wanted to do, what we saw for the future for DFW, Atheists Helping the Homeless. And that's how I found these guys, was just putting a thing out there. Hey, I need people to help me in Fort Worth, and I need another person in Dallas to help me. We need 2 people on each side at all times to be able to do so much. So that's how I did it. And then I started finding out, at first we had a GoFundMe page, but their prices were like 8.3 per some god awful amount, And so we did a PayPal, and then when we got the PayPal, they were like, oh, you need to be a nonprofit. So we kind of went in ass in backwards and fell into getting our nonprofit status and getting our bank account and all of that stuff. But then we were legit, and I say that in quotations since you can't see me, and we made ourselves legit within a month of starting the Facebook page. So it was super, super easy to do and no reason not to do it. So when people contact me, and they can still contact me at LaDonna@dfwahh.org. And if you contact me, I can tell you I have an entire email ready to go at any time to send to people to know how to start an organization of their own, in particular, an atheist helping the homeless. However, you could interject anything, because like I said in my at the conference, is I don't necessarily I mean, I would love if people help the homeless nationwide, but the truth is I don't really care what you do. As long as you're doing something, if you're volunteering and you're saying, I'm an atheist person, to the people you're volunteering with, not necessarily the people you're helping, but with the people you're volunteering with so that they can understand. Every time a person does that, it's one less person that can say, hey, all them atheists are bad people. When what they'll say is, as soon as they hear the word atheist, oh, you know what? I know an atheist that helped me over at the soup kitchen. Or I know an atheist that helped all these underprivileged children in the Bronx study math, So that's what I want people to do, is either they can start something on their own based on their own platform from their own story, or get out there and volunteer and to tell people you're an atheist person so that people can have different conversations about atheists.
Yeah, that's one of the things I hear a lot of times is whenever there's a problem, sometimes we'll say, well, who are the atheists? What are the atheists doing? Why haven't the atheists, wasn't there a story recently where an atheist was refused to volunteer at a soup kitchen?
Yes, they were. And, I feel I kind of ride the fence about that because, I'm not it was a church that was doing that. And I'm going to tell you, as an atheist that runs an atheist charity, I would never, ever take my volunteers to a religious organization and go, hey, we're here. You know what I mean? So I understand that they got turned away, but at the same time, I don't know why they showed up. I'm a little confused about that. And we could do that here, but never. One time I did go, we were looking for maybe a different location in Dallas because Tent City had been destroyed. And so I was going around to different places to see if we could, do our giveaways at their places like we do in Fort Worth. We do it actually at the Day Resource Center of Fort Worth. And so I was trying to find something like that over here in Dallas, and, not one. And I just went by myself and spoke to the directors and said, look, this is what we offer. We'd love to be able to do that here for the people that you're helping. And not one person would help us. So we still do it right on the street in Dallas. So that's okay.
So that's what I was going to ask you about, what the day-to-day was. So you generally find a location that's going to allow you to hand things out, and you advertise it somehow locally, or?
We used to do it where it was disclosed on an as-needed basis, like people signed up through our website, but we found that not only deterred some volunteers, that it wasn't really necessary. We wanted to keep a little bit of anonymity for the homeless, but it's okay. So we decided that we just disclose the location right on our Facebook events. We make Facebook events. We do it all through Facebook. It's amazing what Facebook has been able to do. Dallas is the third Sunday of every month, and Fort Worth is the first Sunday of every month. In Dallas, we actually do it right on the street. We've done it at the same location for over a year now. I just do it right on the street. I do it right next to a shelter. The shelter they only allow so many people in at a time. So many of them are left, and the whole street used to be lined with tents, and they quit doing that. So our numbers have kind of dropped, and I don't know where we're going to go from there, but that's been our location for quite some time. And we like it there because the other organizations meet there, not really that many. I've only seen a couple of other organizations in the year that I've been doing that there. I've seen maybe 3 different organizations that come out, not regular though. They're not regulars like us. Like you can get Girl Scouts giving away 3 bottles of water there at the Day Resource Center, and they're doing a ton of pictures on their Facebook wall, but they've never once said anything to us. And we have benefited thousands of homeless in their backyard. So,
and they're not giving out Girl Scout condoms either.
No. Yeah, and it's a funny thing because people, they react very differently to the condoms. Some people are like, God wouldn't want me to do that, and we're just like, okay, whatever. And a lot of times, I'm celibate, and I just say, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Wow.
So, I mean, but the truth is that there are a lot of pregnant homeless women out there, and we'd like to prevent that, and not only the pregnancies, unwanted pregnancies, but STDs. And these condoms are actually donated to us from the Dallas Resource Center, that is the AIDS Resource Center in Dallas. So these are all donated to us. We don't purchase the condoms; they're quite expensive. We've written all of the condom agencies, and none of them will help us. In fact, there's not been one agency that would help us with anything. And I think it has a lot to do with that we do have atheist in our name, but that doesn't deter me from using atheist. That's one of the biggest things that people talk to us about. They want us to change our name, and we refuse to budge on that one. Me and Jason are very, very strong-willed about that, and that's not going to change. So,
in your speech at the convention, you sort of actually talk about how, a lot of the so-called Christian charities really aren't doing all they can for charities.
That's right. They're not. They're really not. The churches are not the ones that are running the homeless shelters. It is someone with a religious message running these shelters. Churches are not supporting them. They're supported by the city. In fact, every homeless shelter in Dallas is owned by the city of Dallas.
Wow.
We get calls from homeless people frequently needing help, and the first thing they say is, I've been to all these churches and no one will help me. And you know how heartbreaking that is to hear?
Wow.
It's like, wow. And I say, we're atheists. Are you aware of that? Yeah. So, but we also, as an atheist organization, because we're so small, we're kind of in a unique position. We just got a call the other day from a girl who wanted some help, but she was lying, and I had to make a hard call and decide not to help her. And so that's one of the things that we're going to start doing, is doing an application. We want to do things in a little bit different way than other places do. We want people a lot of these homeless shelters, it's just a handout. That's what it is. Just a handout. Just go sit over there in your corner and sleep, and you need to leave at 5:00 in the morning, and you can be back here at 2:00 in the afternoon, and you can have a bed. It's just that simple. It's a cycle that these people are on, and we would like nothing more than to break that cycle. So, being atheists, of course, we're logical, and we want to do things in a way that is a little bit more beneficial. We want to help people not only not be homeless, but to maybe try to help them get out of being homeless. But that starts with honesty. That starts with transparency. I mean, I don't care if you're a drug addict, you're 8 months pregnant, your baby's going to be born crack addicted, you've got a boyfriend that just got out of prison. If you'll tell me all of that, I will help you.
Right.
The thing is that we go to our donors for each individual story. I mean, these toiletries we give away with no questions. There's no application for that. But if you call us and say, I need $100 worth of food, I need 3 months of bus passes, I need minutes on my phone so I can prevent myself from being homeless, then we need to have a little discussion. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's where we're gearing towards eventually, is doing more and more individualized help, and eventually then to have a resource center where there is kind of like the one in Fort Worth is, but a little bit more. We want to implement recovery from religion. We want to implement a secular 12-step program and have meetings every night there, that kind of stuff, and to do some more individualized help with the basis that there has to be transparency. Like, if you lie to us, I mean, that's the thing. That's one thing we're just not going to tolerate.
It's got to be tough, having to make these kinds of decisions, but, it makes total sense, though.
Well, her boyfriend called me back last night and told me that I was trash atheist. So, yeah. And I just laughed. I said, okay, have a good night. And I hung up. So, it is hard. It is really hard. But, Jason and I are really, really tough people.
So if you're going to start your own organization, you need to start small and keep both eyes open.
Absolutely. Sorry. Did I go on a tangent? I'm sorry.
No, it's a good tangent.
No, that's great.
a person in my family once denigrated charity for homeless people, calling it pissing in the ocean. And you mentioned in your talk about evolutionary change versus revolutionary change.
Well, and what I meant by that was, okay, this is the deal. You know, we always hear, and we're coming up on that season where it's all going to happen again. The nativity scenes on the courthouse lawn, all of that. And I'm here to tell you that I think that is a battle, in my opinion, that isn't exactly, for me, no, it's not worth it. The reason being is because that just gets people angry. It gets the Christians angry. And I say, let's do more like the churches. Let's be quiet about it. I don't know. Pissing everybody off is not necessarily my agenda in life. I don't want to go around pissing everybody off. What I'd rather do is have this organization where I know it's going to irritate people, but it's not going to be an irritant in the same way as that is. And this to me is more evolutionary. Like it's coming from underneath in a way that is it's soft and it's quiet, and it's, even though I'm not soft and quiet, what we're doing is soft and quiet, and it's slowly getting people to understand that atheists are good people. You know, I understand the need for a secular comeback of our nation from this craziness that is what we are now, with all under God and all this jazz. I think that the atheist movement, if it was a little bit more quieter in the things that we did, and not so abrasive, and did things more in line with good things and healthy things and worrying about the other things. And that was someone else talked about that at the conference, that all this stuff is just side stuff. What we need, if you really want to get down to it, is like lobbyists and things like that. Something that's going to be a lot more powerful than these little arguments here and there and changing this one little bitty town. You know, I mean, what is that? How does that benefit the entire movement as a whole? It doesn't that much.
Well, imagine how much more weight that, let's say you were fighting a creche on your town square, or in my own town is instituting prayer in its town hall meetings. If you can come to those meetings and say, look, I run this organization that helps the homeless, or it does this public service, and you're saying that I'm not part of your town, you have a lot more weight in that separation type argument too.
I agree. I do agree. And I guess I hadn't thought of it that way. Thank you for bringing that to my attention. No, I hadn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the main drives of the movement has been visibility, but I think there may be more focus on what we are doing while we're visible. And I think, we all agree that, things like creches and Ten Commandments, they're a problem in their own way, but, when it comes down to it, if all we're seen doing is whining about this or that and not actually doing things to improve our community, it's sort of, why listen to us?
Exactly. If you had more doing and a little less bitching, I think that our movement would go much further. If we could have a more cohesive movement and had a cohesive idea about what we really want to achieve with our movement, I think that we would go much further as well.
I just wrote down less bitching, more doing.
Well, LaDonna, it has been an amazing honor to talk to you
Absolutely.
This afternoon. Your story has been
thank you
amazing.
Much. Oh, it's not really all that different from other people's stories. It's just got a few more twists and turns. But other than that, I mean, we all have stories, don't we? Don't you, Tim?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Of course.
Yeah, and they can all serve as a platform.
Thanks, LaDonna. Yeah, it was a lot of fun talking with you.
A lot of fun talking to you.
This is the Secular Nation Podcast, signing out.